There was a rumor so damaging it nearly destroyed Elvis Presley's reputation in the black community. The claim was that Elvis had said the only thing black people were good for was buying his records and shining his shoes. It spread fast, and for years people believed it. But B.B. King, a man who actually knew Elvis personally, had something very different to say. And what he revealed decades later completely changed how people understood that rumor and Elvis himself. B.B. King wasn't just another blues musician commenting from a distance. He was there in Memphis before Elvis Presley became a household name. And after Elvis died, King was asked repeatedly about that ugly rumor. What he said next surprised a lot of people who expected him to confirm it. Let's go back to where this all started. By the mid-1950s, the unverified quote was spreading rapidly through neighborhoods, churches, and barbershops. It was a time of immense cultural transition, and the accusation cut directly into the African American community, causing lasting pain. The idea that a white artist could build a massive career using musical styles rooted in black culture, while holding such contempt for his audience, felt like a bitter betrayal. Yet no one could point to a specific radio broadcast, a written transcript, or an actual witness who had heard the words spoken in public or private. There was no tape recording, no reliable attribution, and no official source to verify the claim. The rumor simply existed, hardening into accepted fact through sheer repetition. In this climate of growing resentment, B.B. King's perspective would become a necessary point of reference, offering first-hand testimony from someone who was actually there in Memphis. Riley B. King arrived in Memphis in 1946, a young guitarist trying to break into a crowded music scene. In 1949, he landed a job at WDIA, a radio station that had recently made history by becoming the first in the United States to program exclusively for black audiences. King was hired to host a daily 15-minute broadcast at 5:30 in the afternoon, sponsored by a patent medicine product called Pepticon Tonic. He secured the job by composing his own promotional jingle on the spot during his audition. On the airwaves, the station billed the young DJ as the Beale Street Blues Boy. Over months of daily broadcasts, the name naturally shortened to Blues Boy and eventually contracted to just the initials, BB. Through his daily broadcasts, King became a central figure in the Memphis community. He didn't just spin electric blues records by artists like Lowell Fulson and Bobby Blue Bland. He used his airtime to announce local job openings, share neighborhood news, and support local talent. He was a trusted voice in the city's black neighborhoods, long before the national music industry took notice of Memphis. This close connection to the city's musical and social environment gave King a direct vantage point. He was not a distant commentator analyzing a cultural shift after the fact. He was a local leader working on Beale Street, watching the city's rigid racial barriers bend and sway in real time. This local authority positioned King to observe, interact with, and ultimately judge the young white artists who began appearing in his neighborhood, including Elvis Presley. In his 1996 autobiography, Blues All Around Me, B.B. King recalled crossing paths with Elvis Presley around 1955 at the Memphis Recording Service, also known as Sun Records. King was often in the studio cutting his own tracks, and he regularly noticed the young singer hanging around. King remembered Elvis as shy, polite, and far more inclined to listen than to talk. While King worked, Elvis would lean against the wall, watching the tape machine spin and humming along. He was frequently there practicing on his own, quietly watching and learning. The 2022 biographical film Elvis dramatizes their dynamic as an intimate, immediate friendship, but King's actual written memories paint a much more grounded picture. The two were friendly, but they were not close companions. At the time, King did not even view Elvis as a particularly standout singer. He was simply a respectful young kid who loved the blues, quietly absorbing the music in a small Memphis studio. In late 1955, Elvis transitioned from Sun Records to RCA Victor, catapulting him onto the national stage. On March 5, 1956, he recorded "My Baby Left Me." 5 seconds into the track, Elvis calls out, "Play it, blues boy." To Memphis musicians, the phrase directly echoed B.B. King's famous WDIA moniker. Whether an intentional tribute, a musical influence, or a mere coincidence, the ad-lib showed how deeply the blues remained in his mind. King watched this rise, noting Elvis had the looks, talent, and presence that made people stop and notice. As Elvis's fame exploded, every Memphis connection was magnified, leaving his music and his character open to intense national scrutiny. On December 7, 1956, WDIA held its annual Goodwill Revue at the Ellis Auditorium in Memphis. Organized by the nation's first all-black formatted radio station, the charitable event raised funds for needy black children. In a strictly segregated city, the Revue was a rare integrated space, drawing a massive African-American audience to see performers like Ray Charles and B.B. King. Elvis Presley arrived late with his friend George Klein, hoping to stay low-key and avoid disrupting the show. But the crowd noticed. Sensing the shift in the room, legendary entertainer Rufus Thomas called Elvis out onto the stage. The auditorium erupted, in front of thousands of black fans. Elvis stood alongside B.B. King, posing for photographs backstage and treating the blues icon, in King's words, like royalty. For a white superstar at the absolute peak of his fame, to openly support an all-black charity event in the Jim Crow South took genuine courage. It remains the most powerful public counterpoint to the accusations that would soon threaten to redefine his entire legacy. In the summer of 1957, Jet magazine, a leading national black weekly, decided to test the truth of the growing rumor. Reporter Louis Robinson traveled to the Los Angeles film set of Jailhouse Rock to confront Elvis directly. When asked about the offensive quote, Elvis denied it immediately, stating that anyone who actually knew him would know he would never say such a thing. Robinson didn't stop there. He interviewed black musicians who worked closely with Elvis, including pianist Dudley Brooks. Brooks rejected the rumor, testifying that Elvis treated everyone with respect as a man. Jet concluded the rumor was completely without foundation. Elvis consistently redirected praise for his sound back to its actual source. During his 1957 press interviews, he insisted that rock and roll existed long before he ever arrived on the scene, openly stating that black artists were the real originators. He frequently spoke about his childhood in Tupelo, Mississippi, where he slipped into the back of black churches to listen to sanctified gospel music, captivated by the raw emotion and rhythm of the services. For Elvis, this was not a newly adopted marketing angle, but a lifelong devotion to a sound he loved, offering a stark contrast to the racial hostility rumored in the streets. In his autobiography, King clarified his stance on the endless debates over musical theft, writing flatly that Elvis did not steal music from anyone. To King, music was a shared heritage, and Elvis simply applied his own charisma and interpretation to turn those songs into massive hits. He saw Presley as a man of genuine integrity. That mutual respect endured for decades. In 1972, when King wanted to play Las Vegas, Elvis personally called the Hilton management to secure him a prime booking. After those Hilton shows, the two spent hours in Elvis's private suite, jamming late into the night. King later joked that they played every blues song they knew, calling themselves the original Blues Brothers. Today, we still let sensational rumors define cultural legacies. B.B. King's testimony forces us to ask, how many stories about Elvis have been shaped by myth rather than the people who actually knew him? Subscribe now for more deep dives into music history.